If you haven't read The Welcome, go read it. But I want to welcome you to SharnaeAmorous.com, and I want to welcome you to my blog. So tonight, really, I want to talk about the topic, what in the situationship? So it's been something that's been swirling around in my mind for a long time, but I always have a lot to say about it, and I thought that I had some valuable things to say and I wanted to share them with you. So for years I've had conversations with my friends and coworkers, different circles about this thing called situationships. Um, it's like the millennial generation that I live in, that maybe 35 and below, I would say. Um, the fire for commitment and marriage, like it used to be, it's kind of, it's not as popular as it once was. I won't say it's non-existent, because there are still beautiful people out there getting married, getting engaged, staying married, raising families. People are doing that. But quite to the contrary of that, there are the habitual situationships. You meet somebody, okay, we kind of like each other, now we're talking, the talking phase, whatever that is. Um, and I kind of understand it as, getting to know each other. But people are out here talking for 9 months. What are you talking about for 9 months? I feel like after 9 months, you know whether this is somebody that you really plan on going long term with. And I think that for so many of us, singles, especially single women, because men don't necessarily get caught up as much in a trap as we do. They get friend zoned it, um, more or less, but women get situation shipped, where, you know what, girl, no, me and Tyrone, we've been talking for 6 months. Baby, what are you and Tyrone talking about? Y'all go on dates, y'all texting, but the situationship ultimately frees one or more of the parties up to still be able to have situationships with other people. So it takes mutual exclusivity off the table. But the thing that I began to think about, because situationships are what they are. If you decide to participate, you're a participant. When you decide you don't want to participate in that foolishness anymore, that's when you take it off the table. But one of the things that really, really came to me, and one of the moments that I definitely want to share um, with my viewing audience, and I'm gonna do some writing underneath this video as well, just some kind of best tips. But if you understand your value, if you understand your worth, when you begin to understand your value and when you begin to understand your worth, it makes the ambiguity of relationships, um it makes it a little less tolerable for you. If I understand who I am and what I'm going after, I'm not going to let anybody waste my time. And ultimately, that's what the situationship becomes, the proverbial waste of time. That in this time frame, we've done these things, but a little bit later, oh no, we don't talk no more. We stop talking. You could have stopped talking 8.5 months ago, when you realized that this person wasn't really who you wanted to be with. They didn't have characteristics that you could see yourself doing long term with. And I know in the society that we live in, people, all they want to date, and they want to, date multiple people and try to figure this out. But I think that we need to really go back to some more traditional views, because at the end of the day, the situationship model, it leaves you basically in a place of, you're giving your time and energy to so many people rather than reserving that time and energy for the right person. And I know somebody's probably listening to this like, girl, I'm single and or I'm not. I'm back, had a little break. So ultimately, somebody is watching this and they're like, I'm not really trying to wait on the right person. It might not be the right person out there. How am I going to know if they're the right person if I'm not dating? You don't have to give people dating privileges to get to know them. You don't need to, I don't need to kiss you to get to know you. I don't need to be having sex with you to get to know you. If I'm really seeking to get to know you, I can pull all of the physical stuff off the table. And what's a relationship without the physical proximity? It's called a friendship. And what we fail to do is build friendships, because when you get in these situationship moments, there 9 times out of 10 you're going to the physical proximity, and that's what makes them a situationship. Because if we were just talking and there was no physical anything, we'd just be friends. But what I really want to encourage you about, not to get on the fact that we're in situationships or we're doing this or we're doing that, but one thing that really, really came to me last night, it was like in a dream. But in the dream, I was going from one level to the other in this mall. It was like an escalator taking me from some things on the bottom level to like a top level of this mall. I mean, some other different things happened in the dream, but what I was able to garner from that is that we date people, we surround ourselves with people based off of who we think we are. If we think this is what we deserve, that's what will be acceptable in our lives. If we think that um, being the friend with benefit type person is acceptable, that's what we will accept in our lives. But it's imperative for us to set a standard by which we live, so that as we move forward and as we begin to expect things from God and expect things to show up, that in our expectation we are prepared. Because I'll tell you this right now, for anybody watching this that desires to be married, who is a single desiring to be married, you cannot effectively move forward with anyone else when you still got emotional baggage in your background. And that was something I had to deal with on my own within myself. Like, oh no, I'm single. No, I'm definitely, I'm single. You're single, but there's, at any point, there's a couple different people who um who don't necessarily treat you like you have a man. And the basis behind that is, if you have relationships in your life, multiple relationships that would be inappropriate if you had a boyfriend or girlfriend, then you are emotionally attached to people. Like, and just in case that's not clear enough, if you had a boyfriend or a girlfriend and you have another friendship or situationship in your life, that's flirtatious, that, oh, we hang out or we do whatever, but if you had a man or a woman, would that situation still be permissible? And if the answer to that is no, you need to take some time to reevaluate what you're really looking for. Because if you're saying out of your mouth that you want stability, that you want long-term relationships, or not relationships, a long-term relationship that will eventually lead to marriage, you need to carry yourself like you want to be married. Not the situationship single, but the single who is wholeheartedly devoted to God and moving forward in the things of God, seeking God for what's next rather than picking up low hanging fruit along the way. Because at the end of the day, when if you were in an apple orchard and you were collecting apples off the ground, the apples on the ground are kind of whatever you pick up. This might be okay. I'm gonna have to cut this wormhole out of this one. But if you go up a little higher and you had to get a ladder and get in the tree, you have your prime pick of apples. But it was because you raised your level of expectation. You weren't satisfied with what was on the ground. You began to move up and you began to go a little bit higher. So what I want to encourage you, if you heard nothing else I said, if none of it made sense, what I want to encourage you about is raise your level of expectation. God has a purpose and a plan for your life. And the person who you have been called to be with directly relates to that purpose and destiny that's on your life. So you got to stop connecting yourself with low level people. And it doesn't mean that they're bad, doesn't mean that they're like a bad person. It means that they're not aligned with your purpose and destiny and where you're going. And that's fine. Everybody you meet, every fine person you meet, is not the person you got to spend the rest of your life with. It's not even a person that you have to date. But you have to get to the point where you're selective about who you allow in your space, because who you allow in your space will begin to take residence in your space. And what you don't want to have to do is evict somebody who is past their expiration date. So that's what I want to encourage you about tonight. If this is the situation you find yourself in, begin to pray and ask God what He would have you to do. If you find yourself, hey, you know what, Sharnae, you're absolutely right. I have been in these situationships, and ultimately they're not getting me anywhere. But I don't know how to be different. I don't know how to just be single, to not have these people that I'm talking to or these people that I'm entertaining because I'm single, because I'm lonely, because um just because it's become my comfortable place. I encourage you to seek God and ask God what He'd have you to do, because ultimately you don't want to miss out on God's best for your life, the destiny that He's already set up for you, because you can't give up the temporary thing that's not even that good to you. So I pray that you all have been blessed by the things that I said. Like I said, I'm going to give um some little tips down here to avoid the situationships. But if you are blessed by this, definitely leave me a comment, send me a message. I want to hear your feedback. I pray you be encouraged. I pray you be blessed. I pray you be empowered to be all that God has called you to be. Have an amazing evening.